Hi, I'm in beautiful Ireland at the moment, and I thought I would do a little video explaining, kind of giving tips for beginners who want to start yoga of any kind. Can even be for people who are coming back to yoga after a little while, but I remember when I first started going to classes and seeing people of all levels next to me in the classes and feeling really inadequate, not being able to keep up with certain moves or postures. And so in this video, hopefully you will get out of it an understanding that we all start from the bottom and work our way to whatever level we may or may not get to. Okay, so the first tip was to, when you go to a class, listening to the directions given by the teacher rather than looking at what their body looks like. This is important because sometimes a teacher might be demonstrating the most difficult move. Usually a teacher should be showing modifications. Sometimes they might just be saying it. What's also really important to listen out for are pointers for when a teacher might say where the stretch should be felt, but also allowing yourself to really make each posture your own so that you're not focusing on what it looks like or what other people may look like doing it, because all of our bodies are different. So, you know, in one posture, whilst one person might be feeling it in one place, like a hamstring stretch, you might be feeling it more in your glutes, you might be feeling it more in your calves, you might find something a lot more challenging than someone else who's been practicing yoga for months or years or decades. So just, being patient with yourself, listening to the directions given by the teacher rather than looking at what the pose looks like or what you might have seen on social media. There's a bad one for ego and everything. So I've got my notes down here. This is kind of similar to the last point that I've made, but don't judge a pose by its cover, if that makes sense. So like you don't judge a book by its cover, don't judge a pose by how it looks. So while something might look unbelievably challenging, really difficult, and you're like, no way can I get into that posture, I've only been doing this for a few months, sometimes they're deceiving. And similarly, seemingly easier poses can be incredibly challenging for many bodies. So for example, this is a prime example, I used to really get annoyed that I couldn't do a asanas squat. So that's this little guy here. I have gotten to the place now where I can do it, but I found out from a teacher recently that because of the angle of our ankles here, some people literally can't do it because their ankles just won't allow it. And that's completely fine. But it's such an important thing for us to understand, which is that sometimes our bodies just won't allow us to get into a posture, and that's fine. We just need to make it our own. Similarly, I remember watching a load of people in a class doing Bird of Paradise. For those of you who don't know, Bird of Paradise is a standing posture in which you have your leg sort of, through here like this, and then you go out like that, and really, I was like, how are those people even doing it? And I asked a teacher at the end of the class, I was like, I don't think there's any way I could ever do that. And she said, well, I was watching you through the class and you were able to do the bind in your low lunge, weren't you? That's this, where you come into a low lunge with your leg in front of you like this, leg out here, and you place your hand underneath. So you take the grasp of your other hand behind you like this. And I was like, yeah, I could do that. So, and she said, well, if you do that again, take that bind and then step your foot up here and stand up, you're in a Bird of Paradise. And I was like, well, holy hell, I can do it this whole time. So it's almost about the perception and perspective and, you know, just opening your mind up to what each pose holds for you. Unfortunately, if you don't like a pose, it usually means you need it. Which is also comes onto the point of knowing your edge and knowing what is uncomfortable because you need to stretch deeper and it's beneficial for your body versus what is uncomfortable because it's actually hurting and damaging your body. So again, this tuning into your body, I can't stress that enough. It's so important to listen and forget about that bloody ego, because your ego is just going to be telling you to push yourself, and that's when injuries happen. So don't rush into these things. Yoga takes a long time to deepen these postures. I've been doing it for coming up to 10 years now, and even now I'm noticing things that I never could have done before. I didn't come to this practice as a flexible person, but it's something that builds over time. And people always say to me, I can't do yoga because I'm not flexible enough. That's bollocks. Like we can all benefit from yoga, even if you're doing the most minuscule stretches, even if it's like, because there's the mind aspect of it, breathing is so beneficial to you. So there's no reason not to do it, really. If you can't move your body in ways that you deem yoga, then you can be in your mind, you can be breathing, blah. I think I've gotten besides the point. But what was that point? I don't know. Rush. Don't rush. Be patient. Take the modifications, even if you've been practicing for a long time. Sometimes it's really nurturing to your body to take those modifications and wind it back to the basics and really get out everything you can from each posture. I find myself even in other people's classes kind of being like, yep, I know exactly what I get out of this posture. I'm going to go to the highest peak and really push myself today. But then, sometimes I'll go back and unravel it, peel it, back to when I first started and find a totally different depth to a posture and be like, wow, that's incredible. It's something I have never gotten out of that before, which is a nice feeling, I think. I always encourage people to find something new in the posture every time they come to it. So there's another point. When I was looking into doing this video, I was kind of seeing what other teachers had to say about tips for first timers or people at the beginning of their yoga journey. One thing I saw mentioned quite a lot was people were saying try and start your practice at home. So doing classes online or on YouTube or whatever. Very good point, because that means that you're not comparing yourself to other people in the class, other people who might have been doing it for years. So whilst you're here in a very modified sequence, there are people next to you making you feel inadequate, which I agree is a difficult way to start, but something invaluable about going to an in-person class with other students is, first of all, the teacher can give you modification or adjustments, and they can see if your alignment is okay for your body and that you're not hurting yourself. That is very, very important as a beginner to be guided in that way, so that you're not, because even when I watch my videos back of myself, I'm looking at my screen, I'm like, oh God, I'm out of line there, I should be here when my foot's actually here, and that's going to be affecting my back or my posture in one pose or another, because our body awareness develops over time and through practice. So it is important to find a teacher from the beginning who you really get on with and who goes at a pace and a rhythm that works for you. And that is another good point, is once you have found that teacher, going back to them, keep going to their classes. They'll get to know you, they'll get to know your body, and then you create this community, not just with the teacher, but with the other people surrounding you in the class, and it's such a beautiful thing. And lastly, it's important to have a sense of humour in these things, because I find yoga can be perceived as quite pretentious, especially quite scary classes like Ashtanga. Like, don't go to an Ashtanga class as a beginner. I made the mistake of doing that and I had no idea what I'd got myself into. But to have a sense of humour and lightheartedness when coming to these classes, because it can be pretty funny when you first come to these things. Like, I remember in my first few classes hearing the entire room, all the other students around me doing Ujjayi breath, and it sounded like the most bizarre thing. Everyone suddenly turns on this really deep, like, animalistic breathing, and I was like, what the holy hell have I gotten myself into? Chanting, another thing. I was like, okay, suddenly we're chanting shanty over and over again. What the hell? You know, as a newcomer, it's quite a strange thing to come into. And also falling out of balances. Falling out of balances happens all the time. Happens to teachers. Happens to me while I'm teaching students. We are humans, so we are meant to fall out of balances sometimes, and that's okay. We lose our balance, but not taking it so seriously, because when you get frustrated and you're taking these things seriously, that's when we are most likely to fall out of our balances. So when you do, just laugh about it. It's, you know, everyone's done it. It happens to us all the time. And once you release that tension of laughter, first of all, you're releasing endorphins, which is a beautiful happiness chemical which we thrive on. But also it releases any kind of tension that you've been holding on to, because it's a nervous reflex. So if you are feeling a little bit nervous, it's your first time in a class or whatever, just let go, have a little laugh, and then you'll be able to come back to it with a clear head, if that makes sense. And over time, you know, as you start coming to more classes, you'll get to realise the benefits of these breathing techniques that sound so bizarre at the beginning, and whatever else you discover. It takes time. Sometimes it's really beneficial actually to research things that you find along the way, classes and stuff, like if people start talking about your mula bandhas, or your chakras, or your any breathing, meditations, styles of yoga that your teacher might recommend for you if they think your body type is more suitable for a different style of yoga. Research it, it's all online. A lot of yoga teachers will have done videos on them, and there's no harm in educating yourself in these things. So I think I'm going to wrap up there. I hope that was helpful. I've done a video on what vinyasa means as well, which I think is a very important thing for anyone to know. I know a lot of yogis who've been practicing for years and still couldn't really define what that means. So anyway, that's another video, but I hope this has helped you. Please don't feel nervous or scared coming to a yoga class. Everyone, it's such a sort of, you know, welcoming and loving community. Come and say hi to your teachers, come and thank them after class. And see where this amazing practice could take you.